And so, I made a meal for my aunt and filled it with laxatives and sleeping pills. I made sure that there wasn't enough in her food to endanger her life, but I wanted to make sure that she wouldn't be able to follow me for what I planned next. Once I was sure that she was either asleep or just locked in the bathroom for the remainder of the night, Hi, my name is Sai, and I was born in Japan, although I didn't live there very long. My mother was very young and couldn't take care of me, and so I was given up for adoption, and my actual parents came from the United States to get me and bring me home. I call them my actual parents because I had never actually known my birth mother. She might have been a good person, but I was only 2 months old when I left Japan, and my adoptive parents were the only parents I had ever really known. They were perfect in every way. We would play games and go on family trips all over the country together. The only real problem was that my mom had a younger sister that did not approve of me. She would constantly say things that made me feel uncomfortable, like,
Ugh, he doesn't even look like us. Look at the shape of his eyes. He's so weird looking.
or,
I swear he smells funny. I know you said that you bathed him, but he doesn't smell like us.
my parents would always defend me and get very upset with her, but since they didn't have a lot of family, they wouldn't cut her out of their lives. When I was younger, I didn't really notice. Although the older I got, the more I began to understand what she was saying, and it began to bother me. However, I thought that that would be the worst thing to ever happen, but I was so wrong. My parents were driving out late one night and were in a terrible accident and died. I was only 8 at the time, and I had such a hard time understanding why they wouldn't be coming home. Eventually, I came to understand that they were gone and not coming back, but it was very hard on me. To make matters worse, though, there really wasn't anyone that would agree to take me in. My father was an only child, and all of his family lived very far away and refused to take care of me. My mom only had my aunt, though, and sadly, she was the only one that was willing to take me in. I wasn't thrilled, but I really had no choice. After all, I was only 8, and no one was listening to what I really wanted. Even though if I had had a choice, I would have chosen to live with my grandparents. They were unfortunately too old, though, to take care of me, even though I was certain that they wanted to. The very day that I moved in with my aunt, she was already being mean to me.
Well, now that you are here, you will obey my rules. For starters, you'll speak only English.
But English is the only language that I know.
Don't you talk back to me.
She quickly slapped me and it hurt quite a bit, but after that, I learned to only ever talk when she asked questions. This was something that I was really not used to, as my parents had never disciplined me before by spanking, let alone slapping me. I didn't know that that wasn't normal. From that day on, I was almost scared to ever speak. That didn't stop my aunt, though, from finding excuses to discipline me.
Sai, did you break this plate?
I had no idea what she was talking about, but I also knew enough to keep quiet.
Well, did you?
Sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I found a few chipped plates in the sink. I'm assuming that you broke them. After all that I've done for you, and after my sister took you from that third world country and gave you a home here, and this is how you repay us, by breaking our things?
I truly didn't know what she was talking about, but I also knew what was coming and braced myself as she slapped me over and over again until she was tired.
Now wash all these dishes, and if you chip or break another plate, I swear to God that I'll make you regret it.
It went on like that for years. More than once I tried to even run away, but that only ever made things worse. She would slap and hit me harder and more often every time that I tried. Eventually, I just gave up and obeyed her every whim. I hated it, and I hated her, but I felt so helpless and unable to do anything. The older I got, the more she expected of me, and she had me basically trained to be her butler. I began doing all of the cleaning of the house and washing all of her clothes, and after some time, she even began to force me to cook all of her meals for her. I knew that this wasn't normal, but I didn't know what I could even do about it. If I said anything to her, she would only punish me. It felt so embarrassing the older I got too, since I began to be taller than her when I was 13. Here she was smaller than me, but I was terrified of her. To make matters worse, all of my chores and obligations at home prevented me from ever getting a part-time job, and I was certain that I needed one in order to ever be able to move out. And by the time I was 16, all of my friends had jobs, but I didn't have enough time for school, let alone a part-time job. I felt so incredibly trapped. But then I had an idea. I knew that she kept a small amount of money in her purse in the hallway, and I had the address for my grandparents. While they were too old to be my guardians, they were still very caring and intelligent people. If nothing else, maybe if I went to visit them, they could give me some advice on how to escape my aunt's grasp. And so, I made a meal for my aunt and filled it with laxatives and sleeping pills. I made sure that there wasn't enough in her food to endanger her life, but I wanted to make sure that she wouldn't be able to follow me for what I planned next. Once I was sure that she was either asleep or just locked in the bathroom for the remainder of the night, I took some money from her purse and called myself a cab to take me to my grandparents' house. The cab took me there, and I pounded on their front door until they answered and let me inside. After a few minutes of constant sobbing, I was finally able to tell them about what my aunt had been doing to me over the years. They were appalled and had no idea that I had been suffering this whole time and promised that they would help me. At the time, I wasn't sure what they had planned, but they insisted that I sleep in the spare bedroom for the night, and in the morning, we would talk about what would happen next. As the sun came up, my grandmother made me breakfast. It was the first meal that someone else had prepared for me in years, and I felt awkward eating and enjoying it. I almost expected that they would suddenly turn on me and force me to wash the dishes afterwards, or that they would slap me for being lazy and eating with them. The simple joy of enjoying a meal with them just felt so foreign to me, and I knew that they could tell this, and it worried them even more. "Sai, we are very sorry, but we cannot care for you, as we are far too old to do so. But we can still help you, and we promise that we will." I don't understand. What is it that you can do?
Well, for starters, the house that you and your aunt live in belongs to us. We are going to evict her, which means that you will be able to stay there all by yourself. You're old enough that you can live there by yourself, so long as you have supervision, and we will hire a maid that will essentially just keep an eye on you and help you with cleaning and cooking.
But what about my aunt? For the longest time, we have suspected that she only took you in because she knew that once you turned 18, that you would inherit the money that your parents left you. She wanted to break you so that you would just hand over all that money to her. But we won't let that happen. That money is rightfully yours, and even though she is our daughter, she is a terrible person, and we want nothing to do with her anymore, especially considering how she has treated our one and only grandson. On top of that, we are removing her from our will. We know it isn't much comfort now, but you will inherit everything when we finally pass. Your aunt doesn't deserve a dime of it. But I'm adopted.
We don't care about that at all, Sai. We love you all the same. It doesn't matter to us at all. And we promise that after today, that things in your life will improve. We are so very sorry that it took this long for us to find out, though.
True to their word, they did evict my aunt and hired a butler and a maid to help me maintain the house so that I could not only focus on school, but actually be able to enjoy spending time with friends, which I had never really been able to do before. To make sure that my aunt didn't intervene, they put a restraining order on her so that she couldn't legally come within a mile of the house or me, and if she did, then she would be taken straight to jail. I didn't see her after that, although I did hear that she was forced to get a minimum wage job to be able to afford the small bedroom in an apartment that she shared with 5 other people. Days after my 18th birthday, she did call me up to wish me a happy birthday and to beg me for money, but I wouldn't listen to her. She had tortured me for years, and I had less than zero interest in sharing my newly acquired wealth with her. I had no idea how much my inheritance would be, and I had to be careful not to waste it. Part of it went to pay for college tuition, and another part went to getting me a car since I needed a way to get to and from school. However, the biggest surprise was that my grandparents gifted the house to me. So at 18, not only did I own my own home, but I also had more money than I knew what to do with. It took a lot of careful discipline, but I managed to graduate from college without squandering my fortune, and afterwards I was able to find a good-paying job. I still had years of therapy to go through to ensure that I healed from the ordeal. And after some time, I did heal and grow as a person. And now that I work full-time, I'm able to repay my grandparents back as I look after them, as they had helped me when I was younger. My aunt does call from time to time and begs me for money. Part of me knows that I should just block the number, but I rather enjoy just listening to her beg before refusing to help her. It's kind of a dark pleasure of mine.